I'm Liz Faublas, and this is Currents. Anger rages around the world. At the United Nations, prayers are offered for peace.
I believe the United Nations is offering us an opportunity for peace that we might never have expected to have.
Someone new comes to the net favorite Faith Film Festival. And a favorite with all of us, the Feast of San Gennaro will take you to the streets of Little Italy.
San Gennaro is the patron saint of Naples and a very important saint to Little Italy. Our church, Most Precious Blood, is the national shrine of San Gennaro.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. From the Middle East to Asia to Africa, the anger of Muslims is cutting a wide swath of death and destruction. In Afghanistan, a suicide bomber has killed 14 civilians. The bomber, an 18-year-old girl. The scene of death, the airport in the Afghan capital of Kabul. 10,000 people have taken to the streets in Pakistan. One protester died from inhaling the fumes of a burning American flag, and gunmen opened fire on a bus filled with nuns. They escaped, but the driver was wounded. In North Africa, Al-Qaeda is calling for more assassinations of American diplomats. And the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta, Indonesia, has been besieged by more than 1,000 rioters, attacking with Molotov cocktails and stones. Elsewhere in Indonesia, more riots with mobs attacking McDonald's and other American symbols are being reported. Well, with no end of the troubles in sight, the United Nations is now assembling for the start of its 67th annual session of the General Assembly. On the eve of the meeting, Cardinal Edward Egan and the Vatican's permanent observer to the UN, Archbishop Francis Chillicott, held a prayer service, and we were there.
Dear friends, the protection and promotion of authentic human rights is an important element of the work of the United Nations. The charter of this noble institution says so. However, some human rights are less protected or not protected at all when so-called new, subjectively determined rights are given precedence. Religious freedom is one of the authentic rights. However, today, religion, along with the freedom to express it in the public square, continues to be under attack and its freedom threatened.
We're here tonight because we open the United Nations 67th General Session with a prayer, as we've been doing for a quarter of a century here in this church. And it is, I believe, just exactly the way the Lord would want the United Nations opened. And every year it is an inspiration for me.
It's truly an honor to be here tonight, especially in the presence of our distinguished Secretary General and his dear wife.
It is an honor to join with you once again. And this service always has a deep meaning for me. And this year is even more special because it is the first of my second term as a Secretary General. We gather at the beginning of another session of diplomacy as believers in our mission to advance peace, human rights, and development.
I believe the United Nations is offering us an opportunity for peace that we might never have expected to have. And the reason is because we have in the United Nations extraordinary leadership, and also we are blessed to live in an era of communications.
It is always a great encouragement to see at this virtual gathering so many permanent representatives and mission staff, high-ranking officials of the UN system and agencies, as well as representatives of a wide variety of non-governmental organizations.
As you may know, there are a lot of problems in the world, and all those problems are brought to the attention of the United Nations, which is the family of nations. Look what is happening in Syria. Look what is happening in Somalia or in different parts of the Middle East at this point in time. So all these problems are problems also of the United Nations, and all these problems will be debated and discussed, and most of the time many decisions will be taken.
11 years ago, we gathered on September 10th offering our prayers for peace throughout the world. The terrorist attacks of the next day changed our world as we knew it, and not necessarily always for the good. As we have every year since, we continue our prayers for peace, and the members of the United Nations community continue the works of peace throughout the world.
Stay tuned. News headlines are next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Liz Faublis. A truce in Lebanon between rival political and religious groups is over now that the Pope's visit is over. The head of Hezbollah is leading street demonstrations in Beirut against the anti-Muslim film that has been used as the spark for violence around the Islamic world. At the same time, the leader of the Falange party is demanding that the protests stop, saying the Lebanese people can't tolerate more protests and the street rallies could spiral out of control. In the streets of Cairo, violence continues to surge. Now the president of Egypt is calling for calm and, for the first time, denouncing the murder of the U.S. ambassador in Libya. Late today, Egyptian authorities charged 7 Coptic Christians who live in the U.S. and a Florida pastor with insulting Islam and inciting the riots. Meantime, mobs are attacking U.S. installations in Egypt and burning the American flag. And a Muslim cleric is admitting he desecrated a Bible outside the U.S. Embassy in Cairo. Ahmed Abdullah says he tore the holy book apart, threw it to the demonstrators for them to step on. Meantime, the mayor of Paris is starting a controversy of his own. Bertrand Delanoë is a socialist and one of France's few openly homosexual politicians. Delanoë says Cardinal Philippe Barberin, the Archbishop of Lyon and primate of the Gauls, has, quote, flipped his lid a little bit on the issue of marriage. In an interview with Francophone Christian Radio, Cardinal Barberin said allowing same-sex marriage could lead to the legalization of polygamy and eventually incest. Barberin's remarks came following talks with France's interior minister on efforts to legalize same-sex marriage. Another French bishop has called for the issue to be put before the voters. Well, the cultural, theological, and historical climate of 50 years ago are the focus of a new documentary the Vatican is releasing to mark a major milestone in church history, as we hear now from Rome Reports.
This October marks the 50th anniversary of the opening of the Second Vatican Council, but few people truly understand the impact this council had on the Catholic Church. And so, to get the message out, the Pontifical Council for Social Communications will launch an HD documentary on October 11th. It will include never-before-seen images, interviews, and expert analysis. The producers are now offering the documentary to American and European TV stations.
We have 200 hours of footage from the preparatory activities and working sessions of the Council. Our intention is to make this rich repertoire of the Second Vatican Council available to all audiences.
A team of 50 people helped produce the documentary, which was made specifically for a TV format. People who were personally involved in the council are interviewed, including 14 cardinals who explain every document that came from the council. What doesn't make it to the edited version of the documentary will be part of a DVD collection with up to 12 hours of extra footage and unpublished testimonies.
In the film, we hear the testimony of Cardinal Wojtyła, the then Archbishop of Krakow, a speech he made in Latin during the council. One of the first interviews was the Monsignor Capovilla, the private secretary of Pope John XXIII. He speaks about the feelings and ideas which he saw during the time he worked with John XXIII, what the Pope had in his heart when he called the Second Vatican Council.
The film brings together different audio and video clips from the Vatican's secret library, showing the Sistine Chapel and St. Peter's Basilica. The release will also coincide with the beginning of the Year of Faith.
Elsewhere, a Supreme Court justice says that at one time he was going to be a priest. Justice Clarence Thomas spoke last week at the National Archives of the United States in what was for him a rare public appearance. Thomas spoke about his job and his Catholic faith and says he is proud to have been raised in a religious environment. Thomas is one of 6 justices who are Catholic. The remaining 3 are Jewish. Philadelphia's Archbishop is voicing concern over a case involving a priest found guilty of covering up sex abuse. In an interview with the National Catholic Reporter, Archbishop Charles Chaput says the penalty imposed on a former secretary of clergy for the Philadelphia Archdiocese, quote, seems wrong. Monsignor William Lynn was found guilty on a single count of child endangerment after being accused of reassigning priests who were known abusers or suspected of abuse. He was sentenced to 3 to 6 years in jail. A court appeal is being prepared. Chaput says the law applied in the case was changed long after Lynn concluded his tenure as vicar of clergy. Archbishop Chaput stressed that he wants to be available to support victims of sex abuse by clergy in the Archdiocese. Well, the Vatican is supporting a new effort to help improve the health and care of children in Latin America. And as we hear from Rome Reports, the church is teaming up with the Italian government.
A pediatric hospital in Rome, run by the Catholic Church, has entered an agreement with the Italian government to help improve medical care available to children in much of Latin America. Representing the Vatican in this agreement is Monsignor Dominic Momberti, who serves as a Secretary of Relations with States.
It's called the Continent of Hope, and this is an occasion, an opportunity to develop a cooperation of high-level technology and inspired by these principles that are a conception of health of the person.
Both sides gathered in Rome to sign an agreement where they committed to send medical goods and services to Latin America from the Roman hospital of Bambino Gesù. The planned projects will improve assistance in cases of AIDS, serious illnesses, or other special needs.
We Italians have many things to say in the world of science, and so I think this is an important step, thanks to the study by the Italo-Latin American Institute and the sensitivity of the Holy See shown by the hospital.
Also in attendance were many of the ambassadors from the 20 countries of Latin America that are part of the Italo-Latin American Institute. They noted that this new agreement was also an important project for relations between the Vatican and Latin America.
Here is something very concrete, the help from doctors, which is above all for children. I think it's fundamental, not only for the Vatican, which becomes closer to Latin America, but also for the region of Latin America itself.
So far, both sides have planned a strategy that would provide assistance between 2012 and 2014. The plan will help children who need transplants, radiotherapy, and different forms of surgery. They also plan to improve preventative care such as child obesity and diet.
And in Paraguay, during a special mass celebrating the 130th anniversary of the founding of the city of Villa Florida, Bishop Melanio Medina was a bit surprised when he was interrupted during his homily. The bishop was worried that genetically altered crops could be harmful to humans when a man stood up and said, quote, "Excuse me, Your Excellency, let me explain." The man, Federico Franco, is the president of Paraguay, and after a several-minute-long presidential speech, Mass continued. Bishop Medina says he has been interrupted before, but this was the first time by a president. Stay tuned. More currents after the break. A new co-host is joining the popular net program Faith Film Festival. She'll tell us about her new role and her acting career.
You have to have faith. You have to believe that that what you're doing is exactly where you should be. You have to trust that this was the path that was meant to be and just move on.
Welcome back. I'm Liz Faubles. One of NET's popular primetime shows is back for a new season. The fall season of Faith Film Festival is underway with a couple of new hosts. We learn more as our Amanda Malewski talks with one of those new hosts, Marissa Harba.
Marissa, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Amanda.
So, you are going to be co-hosting our 4th season of the Faith Film Festival.
Yes, very excited.
Can you tell us a little bit about the films that you've checked out so far?
Oh my gosh, there's an incredible selection. Ones that will just touch your heart and just warm you up inside, and others that some are only 3 or 4 minutes and just wiping your eyes because they're just so emotional, and it really inspires a lot of hope. So yeah, I'm really excited.
That's great. And you're an actress as well. You have a little background, so you have that background to go ahead and watch these films and be able to know when there's good acting,
exactly,
and which ones need a little bit of improvement.
Exactly, and the qualities of production and so forth. Yeah, it's really awesome to be part of the film festival in that way, and be able to see what people are coming up with and the stories that they are sharing with everyone. It's really inspiring.
So you are based out in West Hollywood right now, correct?
Yes.
But you're a Jersey girl at heart.
You bet.
So you're familiar with our great city of New York?
Absolutely, absolutely. It has a very special place in my heart, and I miss it dearly. LA is great, but it's not the same.
And your father actually is not originally from Jersey.
No, he is actually from Bosnia. And which actually brings me to my next role. I'm going to be playing a Bosnian girl in a film called Upstairs, where I get to honor my family, I feel, and play a Bosnian girl who survived the war. She was held in a rape camp for quite some time, and then she escaped as a refugee with her grandfather, and the two of them now live in Los Angeles, and they're trying to connect and move on from the war, and it's a hard thing to do. War in general is you know, it's so hard, but then what happens after emotionally? How do you heal? How do you move on?
That's true.
Yeah.
The role that you were telling me about, you actually went to Bosnia to film this?
Yep. We started filming in my grandparents' village of Visoko, and incredibly emotional. We went inside their house for the first time since 1993. They passed away during the war, and the house has been abandoned and bombed and raided and everything. And we saw it in '06. But we didn't want to go inside because the roof had collapsed over the doorway, so it was like a safety issue.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But we managed to fit, you know, a few crew members and the producer and director and myself inside one of the rooms. And actually, on one of the walls there was the whole place was, you know, you could imagine what it looked like
just
inside. Destroyed. And on one of the walls there was a picture of myself, my mother, and my father from 1987.
Wow.
Yeah, and hanging on the wall, and that was the only thing that was untouched from when they lived there.
That must have felt surreal.
I mean, yeah, like, whew.
So how has your faith really helped you as an actress? How has it helped you through the hard times too?
Oh my God, you have to have faith. You have to believe that that what you're doing is exactly where you should be, and at each moment in time. And if you come across adversity or something that doesn't quite go your way, you have to trust that this was the path that was meant to be, and just move on. And you got to keep going forward. You can't look back. No regrets.
Thanks so much for being here. Is there anything you want to tell our viewers about the Faith Film Festival?
Oh my God, you guys have to see these films. They're amazing. Yeah, you have to tune in. We'll see you there.
Stay with us. More currents after this quick break. The Feast of San Gennaro, a religious celebration that's part of the fabric of New York. We'll visit the feast next.
I think it's a wonderful combination of something that's good for the city economy, a good time for people, reconnecting to Italian traditions, and reminding us that there's a spiritual dimension as well to a day like this.
I'm Liz Faublis. Welcome back to Currents. One of the happiest times of the year in New York, when the Feast of San Gennaro comes to Little Italy, a festival for all New Yorkers, not just Italians, and a time when a saint processes through the city streets.
Today we are celebrating the 86th annual Feast of San Gennaro. San Gennaro is the patron saint of Naples and a very important saint to Little Italy. Our church, Most Precious Blood, is the national shrine of San Gennaro. Today is a parade. We have 3 floats, 2 school bands, another band, Connie Francis, Tom DiNapoli. It's just a wonderful tribute to San Gennaro. We welcome everybody to come.
Big events like this that bring in people from outside of the community. People spend money. That's good from a revenue perspective. I think it's always great when people can have a good time, celebrate a happy time, eating good food. That's a lot of what being Italian is about. But I think for Italian Americans as well, these kinds of festivals are our connection to the traditions that we all grew up with. I think it's a wonderful combination of something that's good for the city economy, a good time for people, reconnecting to Italian traditions, and reminding us that there's a spiritual dimension as well to a day like this.
I feel like I can represent my people. I'm born Italian, native of New York, and I was just asked to be the queen of the feast, and yeah, so we're going through Little Italy, starting at Canal Street, and we're gonna go through.
Another aspect of the success of the Feast of San Gennaro is to spread the good word and the goodwill of New Yorkers. You don't have to be Italian to come down here and enjoy yourself. You can be wherever, you can be Puerto Rican, and you see all types coming down here and coming together. And so for me, seeing the city come together like that is a success.
Every year for the Feast of San Gennaro, we believe in the saint and we believe in God and all the good things that happen.
Absolutely.
It just falls back on our Italian heritage, something proud of.
Well, it's the end of the summer and everybody gets together and, having a good time.
It's an important reminder that many of the wonderful traditions we have, it goes back to a spiritual connection, to a saint or to a religious holiday, that we need to keep that in mind. I remember as a kid going to these kinds of festivals and putting the dollar bill up at the statue. And when I walk through the church, we see that again for the Blessed Mother, for San Gennaro, for the other saints. Again, this is part of our wonderful tradition, something we really shouldn't lose. And an event like this reminds us about that tradition.
Always a good time. That's all for tonight. Be sure to join us on Wednesday when we attend Mass in Park Slope with an Olympic hero. Until then, visit us online at currentsny.net. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faubles. We leave you tonight with more from the streets of Little Italy. Thank you for watching and have a good night.